Good morning, AO Southwest. My name is Paul Vassallo, your Director of Leadership Development, and I'm joined today with the one and only Mr. David Staffiery. And we're going to be talking about David's story and getting to know him and his backstory from the military, where he started, all the way to the success that he's had, especially recently, going to #1 in hiring. Production is ramping up. You've got a Gold Club producer, that just happened in May. So we're going to jump into David's story. We're very excited to see him continue to have his rise and just get to talk about your story. So David, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, and so a couple of things before we get into it. Always, we've got our housekeeping. We've got the hashtag Takeaway Tuesday. Make sure you utilize that. Make sure you go ahead and plug into David and his wife Lindsay's Instagrams, their social media following. But with that, we also have the hashtag nextgenleadership. So make sure you tag them in what your takeaway is, so that not only AIO World and the agency can see it, but they can see what you really took away and learn from David's story. And so without taking any more of their time, David, you ready to jump into this?
Sure, I guess.
Okay, so talk to us, David, a little bit about your story, where you grew up and kind of your upbringing and what that was like.
So I was born out in San Jose, California area.
Okay.
Grew up in a little town called Saratoga.
Heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, so I lived there and was brought up in a family that had a bunch of people that, been in the military, different things along those lines. And so I always kind of grew up knowing I was going to go in the military. Mm-hmm. And so when I graduated from high school, I went to Valley Forge Military Academy, which is a junior college to West Point. Was there for 2 years out in Wayne, Pennsylvania. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Kind of an arm.
Long way from home.
3,000 miles from home, yeah. So I came back, and then I went into the 82nd Airborne Division. I spent almost 20 years in the Army doing some different things, kind of been everywhere and done that.
Yeah.
I think I've been everywhere but Iraq. That's not the only place I haven't been. So anywhere else that you can think of.
All the other countries, though?
All the other countries. So
wow.
Anything that you can think of since 1989, 1990. Wow, I'm really dating myself. I've been pretty much to all those places that you've seen or heard anywhere where they said there's advisors in country. That was kind of my role. I was a LUR for the 18th Airborne Corps, which is the eyes and ears for special operations. So I would go in for Delta Force or for Special Forces or for Rangers or SEALs or whoever it was, and I'd be the guy gathering the intel and then guiding them to their target or where their mission was located.
Yeah.
I was their overwatch while they were running their mission, and then I'd get them back out. So I set up the DZs or drop zones or landing zones, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I'd be like a sniper overwatch on their mission.
Okay.
So that was kind of my role for about 13 of my 20 years-ish, and then the last 7 I was a drill sergeant. I actually became a senior drill sergeant and ran the drill sergeant school.
Okay.
So my job was to find NCOs that were in the top 10% of the Army and turn them into drill sergeants.
Okay.
And so that was kind of my whole role there. So
you were looking at talent development, even that's always been a part of what you've been doing, it sounds like.
Correct.
Okay, so not only just here, but you were doing that for, you said, about 7 years.
7 years in the Army.
Okay. So you take me back to 18 years old. Yes, you said you grew up in a town and family in the military, but I mean, you're an 18-year-old young man. You're going away to Pennsylvania, leaving home. What was that like?
It was kind of strange because, I mean, my brother and sister, they're 7 and 9 years older than I am, and they were still living at home when I left.
Okay.
So I, didn't have any kind of outside experience for what it was going to be like to be on my own or any kind of stories to get from my siblings or anything. So it was kind of an interesting scenario to go off and do it. A little homesick at first, but pretty jazzed up about it. I played football, and so I got to play against like Villanova and all these different, colleges at the time, and that was kind of like just after Howie Long was there, and so they were still pretty good.
Very talented.
So it was nice playing college ball and doing that. So I was more into that than really thinking about anything else, and I really wasn't, even though I was like I'm going to be in the Army and do the Army thing, I was more in the athletics mindset than I was for anything else. So that kind of got me through the first year at least there. The next year I was more in the getting in the military mindset. I went through Ranger Challenge and all this other stuff that I was there. And that's when I got designated that they wanted me to become a LUR. So it's Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol Surveillance. The only problem with it is that I was supposed to go to West Point from the school, but you can't be an officer in LURs without being an NCO first. So I changed my contract, went in and became a non-commissioned officer so I could go through and be in the special operations unit.
Okay.
And then I was going to get my commission later, but that's when I became a drill sergeant, and I kind of never wanted to take the hat off, so I never.
So it just
became
didn't
the
end
officer.
up. It didn't end up happening.
Never took my commission yet.
What was that like? Because I can imagine. So my father was a Marine. I always had this itch for sports, but I always just felt like, okay, there was something about the military, that team thing, and kind of it's bigger than you, right?
Correct.
That sacrifice of sort. Just it's no longer about me. It's the country and the men and women next to you, right? So what was it like being 18, 19, 20 years old, being recruited to do I would imagine a pretty cool gig in the military, to where you do the reconnaissance and you're kind of that guy going in there. Were you feeling a little high on life? I mean, were you feeling pretty good and 20 years old and
I definitely
traveling and doing all this stuff?
Yeah. Well, I got the ego going on,
Yeah.
because I was like 20 years old, 21 years old at the time. And was going through Ranger School and Pathfinder School and Airborne School, Air Assault School.
Kind of badass. I'm sorry, like that's cool, right?
Yeah, no, I got to do all the cool
Yeah.
things. So I'm a young kid walking around, and I'm still like a PFC specialist or something, and I've got all sorts of tabs all over my uniform, and I got officers looking at me like, who the hell is this kid? Yeah. So it kind of got me a little bit of an ego going on at the time, and it wasn't bad, because the first 2-3 years of it was just training.
Yeah.
I had to go through like Halo school and scuba school. I mean, I literally went through everything. So I was just like living up on the, hey, this is fun.
Yeah.
I'm going through all these schools. I'm getting all this knowledge. This is pretty cool, because I hadn't actually done my mission yet, which the mission's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's kind of talk about anxiety kind of a mission. So you're kind of behind enemy lines with no support, out there for like 30 days at a time, crawling around in people's backyards, not trying to be seen. So.
All I can imagine is like a Jason Bourne type thing or something like that, where you're the solo guy going in and doing what you need to do. And
I was with a team of people. I wasn't by myself.
Yeah, but that just for people like myself, we didn't live it, right? And so we don't know what that's like. So when you were getting out of that, going into sergeant, was there an identity shift for you? Was there I've identified, 13 years is a long time, and especially at that point in time, that's almost like a majority of your life, right? That you've been doing this. So
Correct.
When you started to transition to drill sergeant, did you battle that? Like, maybe I still got it, maybe I still want to do this, or was it a very smooth transition for you?
It was actually a bit more of a transition than I thought it would be, because again, I was in more of an elite team that we had like 12 guys. We're in 6-man teams, and I usually was on a 2 or 3 person Overwatch team. So I didn't work with a boatload of people.
Yeah.
And then becoming a drill sergeant, they want you to handle 260 18-year-olds at a time, and so it's kind of like herding cats. So
I understand.
It's a different kind of scenario and how to work. And then it's also, the team camaraderie, how the military is. It's always,
Correct.
everything's above you.
Yeah.
So you're kind of the low person on the totem pole in all scenarios. It doesn't matter what your rank is, what's ever going on. You're always behind God, country, your team. Everybody's above you.
Correct.
You put everybody first. Like, if you ever see me, if we ever go out to eat or anything, I'm going to make sure everybody's got their food. They've all sat down. They're all in the middle of eating before I'll even get my food to sit down, because I got to make sure everybody's taken care of first.
Correct.
And that's just kind of a mindset they put you in.
Yeah.
And so transitioning into taking that and trying to teach 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds to have that mindset when all they think about is themselves, it's a challenge. Luckily, in the military, there's certain words I can use and punishments that I can enforce that make it a little easier for me to get them to pay attention.
Correct.
But it did leave me with some life lessons that I got from it that I've been able to implement and transition into here at AIL.
Yeah. With that transition out of the military now, because now we're talking about you go in at 18, you do about 18, almost 20 years. So now we are talking like you spent as much of your life outside of the military as you were inside. So
Correct.
What was that transition like? Because you went into real estate, correct, afterwards.
Yeah.
So now, I don't want to say starting over, but it's like, hey, this chapter was good, 18 years. Now you're moving on. So what led for you to get out of the military and start to open this new chapter of a new career?
Well, what got me out of the military at the time, I wasn't intending to leave the military in full. It was just that when I became a drill sergeant was because I had hurt myself in Afghanistan and had to get my shoulder repaired.
Okay.
So when I came back and got my shoulder repaired, when I was supposed to go back to my lure unit is when I got approached and said, hey, we want you to become a drill sergeant. So I kind of got complacent back at home in California and
Gotcha.
met someone and ended up having kids. And so the unit I went to was supposed to be a unit that was not going to be deployed. So I was like, oh, I can be home with my kids and the work. So I became a drill sergeant. So that's how I got into the drill sergeant realm, because it was a non-deployable unit.
Gotcha.
My deployment would be to Fort Benning, Georgia, to go train infantry soldiers. So it's like a...
So not a deployment, but just...
I was stateside deployment rather than overseas.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, this is cool. I can do that. I can
got the family. If the furthest you would go is Georgia.
Pretty much, yeah. So I've already been there, done that enough times. I get to be home with my kids and still be in the military. It'll be great. But since I was a senior drill sergeant, I ran the drill sergeant school. So I actually worked with TRADOC, which is like the training command, to put all the curriculum together for what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. They decided that my particular unit was the unit they wanted to send over to Iraq and Afghanistan for a year long at each location to teach their guys how to be drill sergeants too. So it was a over 2 year long deployment with only like 2 or 3 month break in the time period. So
Gotcha.
My chain of command came to me and they're like, hey, your kids are like 3 and 5, I think at the time, or whatever it was. If you want to go ahead and out process into the reserves instead and do that, then you can do that and we'll let you kind of out process. So
Gotcha.
I transitioned from doing what I was planning to do for over 20 years, probably 30 years, to not doing it because my kids were at an age that if I was gone for 2 or 3 years, I was going to miss like their whole growing up.
The development too, and
So that's what kind of transitioned me out of the military. However, while I was in the military, I always did like 2 things. My parents had a travel agency, so I always put together groups and events, and then I also did real estate. I was always in like land development and things along those lines. I actually bought some land out here in Buckeye just before the crash, and was building like 10 homes on it and the whole works, and that was horrible. So anyways, the crash didn't treat me too well on that one.
Gotcha.
But real estate, I still was able to bounce back and get to a different field or market of it. So I've done commercial, I've done residential, I've sold, and I've done land development for both commercial and residential. And so I was actually able to get to the top 10% of Coldwell Banker, which is called the President's Elite. And I was at the Los Gatos office, and anybody who's in real estate knows that Coldwell Banker has 2 big offices that compete for first throughout the whole nation, and that's Beverly Hills and Los Gatos. And I was Los Gatos office.
So you're in top 10% in one of the top offices in the country. So obviously speaks to the success that you're having, but with the transition out of the military, why real estate? Why not go get a job, right? I mean, you've got a heck of a resume through the military. You probably could have got a pretty nice salary somewhere, someone who valued the leadership and what the skills that you've developed. Why real estate? Why go into business for yourself?
Well, I've always been kind of an entrepreneur. Like I was telling you before, that I used to write business plans for companies while I was in the military, just something to kind of do on the side. So I would come up with an idea, I'd write up a business plan, I would sell the business plan to somebody else who had the ability to do it because I was in the military. I couldn't do it.
Correct.
So I set up companies like Party Bus International. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but all the limousine buses that you see out there came from Party Bus International. That's where it started. I actually wrote the business plan for that and got that put out there. There was another company I put together called Skating Edge. It's been used a couple different places. That's inline skating facilities for like hockey rinks and stuff. So I mean, there's a bunch of different things that I've done. When it comes to that, I actually opened up a company while I was doing real estate called Extreme Adventures, because my brain kind of did a loop on me because I was getting paid extra to jump out of planes and to scuba dive and things like that. But if you want to do that in the civilian world, you actually have to pay somebody to do it. And so I refused to pay somebody, so I created a company to get other people together to go do those things together. So I was able to go scuba diving or skydiving and not need to worry about paying for it because all the people I brought paid for me. So I was
very nice.
I was doing that, but I always wanted to kind of run my own business. And so plus in the military, they're super structured, and going into the civilian world, into other companies, they're not necessarily super structured. And so I think I needed kind of a phasing period to be able to start working with civilians, I guess if you want to call
Correct.
it.
Yeah.
To where I was not. I think it took me at least a year or two to not use swear words for my full communication. So I would even
coming from a drill sergeant,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd talk to my mom and be like F-bombing, and she'd be like, what is going on? So
slow down, David.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it took me a little bit of time. So real estate was actually a good industry for me
Yeah.
to get into because I could find clients that I meshed with that got along with me.
Correct.
I had a lot of military people that I would do the VA loans for them and that kind of thing because I did the
Yeah.
loan part of it as well. So it just kind of fit for what I was doing. But then in like 2015, because the cost of living, because like I said, I was in top 10% of the President's Elite of Coldwell Banker,
Yeah.
and I was making pretty good amount of money. And my wife was a property manager for one of the top property management companies, and she was making a good amount of money. And we could either live in her apartment that they had for her because she was a property manager, or a duplex. I'm like, this is insane. We're making a lot of money, and this state requires you to make 10 times that amount of money
To live. Yeah.
So I was like, we need to move. So my parents were out here in Arizona already.
Yeah.
My kids were going to a school in Saratoga, and I'm not sure for anybody who's listening to this knows about Saratoga. Saratoga is actually in probably the top 12 wealthiest cities in the country. But yet my kids are going to school, and it's a rated 3, 4, 5 schools.
Yeah.
Okay, it was like, I don't understand how this works. Our taxes are supposed to pay for this.
Correct.
We're paying a lot of money in taxes in the
Yeah.
state. Why are they not in a better school system?
Yeah.
So we heard about the Chandler Gilbert area, and they have a school called Hamilton High School out there. My kids
Great
play
football.
Great football.
Great
My kids
football.
played football, and they played ice hockey
Yeah.
and my daughter cheerleads. And so Lindsay and I were like, hey, why don't we have them go to Hamilton? They can finish their school out there.
Yeah.
And that's a rated 10 school for both academics and athletics. And so, hey, for 1/10 the cost of living,
Literally.
we can live in a nice area that's close to my parents and has an awesome school.
So it
that's
sounds
what
like it was kind of a win-win in that season of your life of just figuring out what's best for you, for the kids. You said your parents were out here. So when you came out here, you transitioned to do real estate out here, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so take me through that time of, getting settled in here, but then also getting into financial services and maybe opening this new chapter and potentially looking at, because you've got a great story of how you ended up in financial services. So you move out here, you're getting closer to your family. How did you get introduced to financial services from real estate, and why did it make sense to you?
Well, first off, I started with Coldwell Banker out here.
Yeah.
However, Arizona, I think everybody's a real estate agent. I don't know if there's really anybody in the state that's not.
Right.
You have a lot more competition. The cost of homes obviously is a lot less. In the Bay Area, I was selling $1.5 to $3 million homes. That same size home out here was like $300,000.
Correct.
So obviously, when you work at a commission basis, you're not getting paid for as much, and the actual process for real estate out here is a lot longer than what it is in California too.
Gotcha.
So it's a harder process to get paid a lot less money.
Yeah.
And then when I do an open house out here, I wasn't getting anybody but maybe the neighbor to come look at it to try and create leads or to generate
Correct.
business.
Yeah.
Whereas in California, again, if I sat at an open house, I'd have like 10 people come in that don't have real estate agents, and I would have new clients right away. So it was a totally different way of working, but
sure.
yet my cost of living, even though it was 1/10 of what it was in California, was still considerable.
Yeah.
And so I needed to make something happen. And I needed something that would help me get leads. So then I said, okay, well, I've got my real estate license, and I've been doing travel and stuff like that with my parents for all this time, with their travel agency. There's this thing called timeshare that sells real estate for travel destinations. Hey, that should be perfect.
Yeah.
So I went and did timeshare because they give you the clients. They have some people sitting
They
in
have
front of you
leads.
and you get to
Yeah.
talk to them. However, they'd never give me leads because part of being a drill sergeant is all about integrity.
Yeah.
And I'm full of it. And one of the things that I would not do is tell somebody that was something that wasn't true. And so they would have me sitting at this table trying to spew a bunch of stuff to somebody else to sell them on, a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 program that in no way, shape, or form was in their best interest.
Correct.
And I wouldn't do it. So because I wouldn't tell them something to do that they wouldn't do, I would just tell them the truth about how it all works and what to do and why to do it. If they liked it, cool, but it was the truth part of it.
Correct.
So I wasn't like the best salesperson, and they didn't like the fact that I wouldn't lie for them, so they didn't give me any leads. So I just sat in the back of this, area watching TV and hanging out all day for like $10 an hour, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't paying my bills.
Correct.
So I started looking on like Indeed and ZipRecruiter and those kind of things, and kept seeing all these things pop up about doing insurance. Hey, if you do insurance, you can make 150,000, 300,000, 100,000. It was always six figures, like somewhere in the six-figure range. About 225,000 was kind of the median, for what people were making in their first year for insurance. I kept blowing it off. This is BS, whatever. This is just a scam, whatever. Just kept, flipping through it and going to other things. But it was just like never-ending supply of all these different insurance companies. And they're all saying the same thing. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, is this real? I got to find out. So I had a friend out in San Jose that I knew she did real estate. I mean, not real estate. She did insurance because she'd been trying to recruit me for a long time. And I kept laughing at her, like, you're driving around like crazy. You were driving like 50 miles today to go out to somebody. Well, I'm not going to do that, just kind of giving her a hard time. Yeah. But I knew she did it, so I was like, okay, well, let me go ahead and call her and ask her what's going on. So I gave her a call, and she's like, oh, hey, I'm on vacation right now. What are you up to? And I'm like, oh, I'm just out here in Phoenix, but where are you on vacation? She's like, oh, I'm in Hawaii. I'm like, cool. How long you been there? She's like, 6 months. I'm like, who goes on vacation for 6 months? Right. I'm like, all right, well, hey, anyways, I'm calling you for to find out about insurance. Like, I know you did insurance for a while. How's that all going? For you. And she goes, well, I'm retired now. I'm like, dude, you're like 10 years younger than me. How the hell are you retired now? Yeah. And so she was telling me that, she had got into this company for doing insurance, and that she essentially was telling me that she was making decent money doing it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, in my mind, I'm like, it's got to be like 10 grand or more a month in order for me to pay bills and to match what's on these things I'm seeing for how much you can make. And so I'm like, so how much were you making? She's like 6,000 or 7,000. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's not so good. And she goes, yeah, per week. Yeah. I'm like, okay, wait, hold on, back up. You just say you're making $6,000, $7,000 a week. She goes, yeah. I'm like, then why would you retire? Why would you not be doing this anymore? And she goes, well, because I make like $15,000 a month on my residuals. And I'm like, what is that all about? So she explained what residual income was, and that she was in Hawaii now for 6 months. She still had another month left on her vacation there. Then she was going to go to Finland to go to school. When she gets back from Finland, she was going to coach for the United States hockey team. And this is her dream, because now the residual she had from American Income was so high that she didn't need to ever work again. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to learn more about this. What can you do? So she said, well, let me see if I can get you set up, because, again, we're in San Jose and I'm out in Phoenix now. Yeah. So she called around and calls me back. She goes, hey, is this guy Domenico? He's going to have someone give you a call. His name is Dustin Veenekamp, and he's going to go ahead and talk to you about that. I'm like, all right, cool. So then about 5 minutes later, I get a call from Dustin Veenekamp, and he's like, hey, I've been in this company for 14 years, and not once in 14 years have I had a senior vice president from AIL give me a call to say, hey, come talk to this guy. So correct. You must have some connection going on there, so why don't you come by my house and we'll talk. So I came by his house a few times, and we went through everything, and finally came on board with American Income. Okay. We are going to now go to recognition from last week as we prepare for the second production month of the year in July. So congratulations to all the top producers from last week. So you met with Dustin. You started in the insurance industry, and this was back in about February of 16? Yes. Okay. And you experienced some challenges early in your career, and especially coming from, I would argue that you had a tremendous amount of success in the military, and then in real estate, when you get to the top 10% of anything, especially when it's in the top markets in the country, you could argue that that's success, right? So when you're coming from being used to this level of success, and then you start in a new field, what was that transition like for you? Well, it was not the easiest transition. Okay. In real estate, you kind of always are selling people, and they know that you're kind of selling them, because you're saying, oh, look at this window, and look at that wall, and the color of the paint and the floor. It's so wonderful. And the people know that you're just trying to make the house or the property, whatever it is, seem better. Yeah. And so that was kind of my mindset, is I'm coming in here to glorify the insurance, and I'm going to sell it to you because you need to have it because I want you to have it. Correct. Okay. It was more so for me than it was for them. So I got my lead pack. And as you know, when you go through like 100 lead pack, you probably get a good solid 20, 30 appointments out of it. Yeah. Well, I did. I got about 30 appointments out of it, and I went 0 for 30 because I was trying to sell every single person that I went to, and I was not sticking to the script. I was kind of trying to recreate or reinvent the wheel. Again, I was very entrepreneurial, writing all those business plans, everything else. I figured, hey, I can come in here, I can do this better, I can make a better, mousetrap.
For sure. I had about 30 appointments. Yep. And then how did those go?
Not a single one sold.
Okay.
I don't think I collected a single referral either. I didn't, do anything that I was supposed to do in any way, shape, or form. And I was kind of freaking out. So I went to Dustin Camp and I went to Dustin Dunbar and I said, hey, I don't know what I'm doing right or wrong here, but can I get some more leads? And they said no. Can't give any more leads. You got to make some production to get some more leads. And so Dustin Dunbar said, winners find a way to win. And Camp said, hey, just figure out what kind of resources that you can work with, how you can self-generate leads. Make sure you're collecting referrals. Referrals are key. He said, when I started off, I was knocking on doors. So I was like, okay, well, let me think of a way to do this and collect some referrals and leads and everything else. So I said, well, hey, I came from real estate, and I know real estate people don't have benefits because we're independent contractors. Oh. So I went to Coldwell Banker and Keller Williams, and within 24 hours, I collected 400 leads. Because I went out and talked to all the brokers and managers for those companies and said, hey, what do you have for benefits? Oh, you don't have anything? Well, I have access to the union benefits, the firefighter, police officer, veteran benefits. I could probably extend those to your guys through a sponsorship program if they'd be interested in learning more about it. And so they're like, here's all our people. They gave me like a list of everybody. So essentially got 400 people, was able to sit in the office and talk to everybody and get them up and going. But I resigned myself to saying, hey, I need to follow the script. I need to follow the systems and processes. And once I started doing that, I went from being a 0% closer to by around July, so like my 4th or 5th month in the business, I was probably about a 55-60% closer. And then by October, I was 75-80%, and now I kind of hover around 85-90%.
Which is tremendous. So, I mean, ultimately, all you need is a presentation and you're helping a family, right? Yeah. But that just speaks so much to, I was just taking the note on this of, you said I made an intentional choice to make sure that I was not only coachable to the system, but just, look, run the play. Athletics, right? Coach calls the play, we go execute.
Exactly.
Right? Military, they call the play, you go execute, right?
Exactly.
So because so often for the newest person, the scripts and processes, because they're new, they're uncomfortable, they find any justification in their head to kind of do it their own way. Yeah. Talk to that person about what was your aha moment? Why? I mean, obviously 0 for 30 is you got to look at the man or woman in the mirror, right, and be like, hey, I got to do something different. But what was that aha moment for you? Why did you decide to, at that point, say, hey, I'm going to stick to the script now, and I'm going to start to trust in the system and the process and put the pressure on that? Why did you end up having that conversation with yourself or making that decision?
Oh, I had kind of 2 aha moments.
Okay.
So prior to like September of 2018, I was probably, like I said, about 65-75% closer. Yeah. And then it kind of went up from there. There was an aha moment there is why it went up to like in the 85-95, so about 90 percentile area. And my quality also went up from being like 83 to 90% to like 99% at that same time period as well. My first aha moment was when I realized that that nobody else out of 2,300 plus insurance companies and 50,000 unions and associations, not a single one of them uses any other insurance company but us. Yeah. So there's something special about us. Still hadn't really completely figured out what it was, but I knew that we were something special. Yeah. And talking to Dustin Camp, he is a great inspiration, and he kind of just said, hey, just make sure that you're following the script. Just make sure that you know your script, and just make sure that you're collecting referrals and run as many referrals as you can. Just try and focus on referrals. So I was like, all right, I'll just do that. And so that kind of helped me get a little more momentum because I was getting more activity. Yeah. And because I knew that we were something special, I had kind of an aura, I guess, about me. Like when I go into a home, I'm kind of excited. Yeah. Like, hey, I'm glad I got to see you. I got so many people I got to see. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to see you today. And I'm just glad that I was able to get to see you because I really want to make sure that I can take care of you and your family. And so the excitement, I guess, comes off and the people are like, yeah, let's do this. So, kind of gets exciting. Yeah. But there was a period of time in around May to September where some things kind of didn't work out as well as I thought they were going to work out. And I had a pretty sizable team, and you never know what can happen. The world turns. It's got its own little timeline, and things happen. Maybe I was just not living my life the way I probably should have, or I don't know what judgments were coming against me. But I kind of lost my team. And so when I lost my team, I got suckered into the grass is greener somewhere else, and I actually left American Income for a little bit of time. And when I left, I went to a company that actually represents like 30 of the top insurance companies in the nation. So everything from like the top Transamerica and Mutual, I can go through the list of them, but literally all the best insurance companies were in this list. So I was like, wow, I'm like a broker for all these insurance companies. I'm going to have so many more options. I'm now like the Cheesecake Factory of insurance. I can kind of give everybody what they want to have, right? But came to find out that really I was peddling not much different than the timeshare thing. I was in the, hey, I've got to tell you something that's really not the case so that you'll buy it, because I'm not really anything special and I don't have anything unique or exclusive to you. And then there's so many different products. You get that, well, let me think about it. Let me do that. I don't know what I can do right now, but that's, too many options. And so.
Correct. Paralysis by analysis, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's so many things that happen there. But the one thing that I did learn is how unique and special and what the difference really was to American Income. Whenever I was in meetings, they'd always say, we're the insurance for when you pass away, they're the insurance for after you pass away. But I never grasped that concept. But after being with a company that I worked with, all the top insurance companies, I realized what that concept was that it's going to take 6 weeks to 2 years, 6 months on average to get paid out with all those other guys, whereas we pay the mortician or the funeral home that day. You don't need to wait. And they send that receipt in, you're going to get your beneficiaries set up with their money within like 72 hours, which means that the bills are going to get paid. Because I went and did research on it. The number one cause of foreclosures, repossessions, evictions, family divisions even, is that gap of time from when somebody passes away till when probate releases people's assets or insurance companies pay out their claims. And we're the people who actually cover that gap of time.
Correct.
And I'm like, everybody needs this. And when I realized that everybody needed it and how we were special and why we were unique, and that we didn't have all these stipulations and pitfalls like the rest of the insurance industry does, like with expiration dates or trying to get you to cancel your policy and things along those lines, I just went out and was like, hey, I'm all about this. And
carried yourself differently. And
exactly. So I went out and I came back with American Income. Luckily, Dustin Vini Camp took me back. I'm very grateful for that. And so I'm glad to be here. But I spent the last part of last year just kind of working on me and trying to make sure that I was on the systems and processes as best that I could, and that I got my script down the best that I could. I went out to advisory council at the end of the year with you guys, which I was happy you guys had me there too. To thank you for that. And we made some changes in the company, and I kind of voiced my opinion from the outside world of seeing what I saw out there, and I saw some actual changes being made. So it was like, hey, wow, I'm being heard here. So this is great that you actually have leaders who listen to what their guys have to say. And then in February, I started building my team. And so from February to now, we have like 30 some odd people that are up and going. And we had 9 codes last month. We're on track to have at least 11 in July. And
well, let's talk about that, because I mean, you had last week's episode with Southern Foster. He's one of your guys that you're mentoring, and he went out and wrote over 50,000 and had a Gold Club month. One thing that I think people don't understand enough, and maybe you can attest to this too early in your career, is servant leadership. You talk about this with the military, right? You're always making sure that the other people are either eating or whatever they're taking care of first. How would you compare that leadership, the servant leadership here from the military? Because you got to learn it there firsthand for almost 2 decades. How do you think that's helping you now, as you've got one of the fastest growing organizations? You've got a lot of people that are counting on David. How do you think that led you and prepared you for this season of your life?
Well, it definitely prepared me for running a team wise. Like one of the things with Southern, Southern's awesome. I'm glad he came back and that he's with us, and He's similar scenario with him.
Yeah.
You guys heard about that last week and what's going on with him. He thought the grass was greener, that something else was going to be better at a different company, but it's still kind of where you're at. There was a lot of talks between him and I and getting where we needed to be. And when he made a decision that he wanted to go for Gold Club, I just made sure I held him to the decision that he was doing.
Yeah.
And I think we talked 16 times a day, till like 2 in the morning and, whatever it needed to be.
Yeah.
We ran through all his numbers. We sat down with Dunbar. Myself and Lindsay would literally be on the phone with him or Natasha. We were like always making sure that the support network was there.
Good.
But we wanted to make sure that above and beyond anything that happened for Lindsay or myself, it was, hey, Southern, are you making your numbers? Are you making your paycheck? Are you getting taken care of at the end of the week? How's Natasha doing? Is she feeling good? Is everything good to go with her? Do we need to take her out and do something or be with her? We wanted to make sure that everything was good to go. Even though he was on this pace we're going, we still went out and had movie nights. We still went bowling. We did all these different things to make sure that she was engaged, he was engaged, and doing things at the same time.
Yeah.
And we were always in communication what was going on. And we get little incentives and stuff. So. At the end of this month, we're bringing Natasha and Southern on a cruise for 7 days down to the Mexican Riviera because he made his goal.
Yeah.
So
Pretty
we do
special.
little things for them, but it's not about what we're going to make out of it. It's always about, hey, how many families are you protecting? Are you doing it right? And are you following the system processes? Because, Southern will tell you when he went to that first house that he got his referral thread from, it was not a house he wanted to go into. It was not somebody he wanted to see, and the guy was lying to him and the whole works. But he still went through the processes because we had talked before. Hey, it doesn't matter what house you go into. We need to go through the systems and processes. Just do what you're supposed to do, and by doing it, we're just going to get practice for the next house, and that you're going to make sure you're doing it right. Yeah. And so he did his 5 seconds of courage and counted down and went in there and did it.
Good.
And so he was able to succeed from it. But being from the perspective that I learned in the military is that if your guys are happy and they know the mission at hand, where they need to be, where they need to go to. It's not just it's not saying, hey, go for Gold Club. It's go for Gold Club, and by going for Gold Club, that means you have to do 82 appointments in the month. And by doing 82 appointments in the month, you're going to see X amount of people, and the people that you see, we're going to have to collect X amount of referrals.
Yep.
And we break it down, and we know the end goal, where he needs to get to, and it's not really how you're getting there. It's just making sure that you're staying on track for the end mission.
And you're focused on winning the day, right? Because it could be 82 appointments is kind of overwhelming if I try to think about 24 hours.
Well, exactly.
But when I break it down, I'm saying, okay, well, I just need to win today.
Correct.
What do I got to do to execute today? You hit on something pretty powerful, and it sounds like it's been there throughout the course of your life. What would you say mentorship has done throughout your career, military-wise, being in real estate and in insurance? How has mentorship played a key role in your success?
Well, mentorship is key. Yeah. Without proper mentorship, I probably wouldn't be here today, just in life-wise.
Yeah.
So some of the mentorship I got in the military and some of the experiences that other people had and the wisdom they were able to pass on to me,
for sure,
put me in a position that essentially saved my life.
Yeah.
So that kind of a experience, I call the grays in my beard my wisdom.
Yeah.
Because it's all about experience. I wish I could tell my kids, hey, do these things, they'd actually listen, but they're always like, let me touch the burner and see if it's hot.
It's hot.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
But if you do it in the right manner and you make sure that the people are feeling like it's their idea and that you're just supporting them in their ideas, that you're there for them, and that you're guiding them down a path of where they want to be.
Correct.
And as long as you're doing it in that manner and you're mentoring in a proper way, they'll actually listen to what's being said and how to do it. And as long as they're listening, they're receptive to it. I think mentorship is a huge thing that's going to be able to get everyone where they need to be. Correct. And Vini Camp, when it comes to AIL, has mentored me. And he's given me great words of wisdom and pearls of advice, and however the little sayings are there. But the things that he says. And him and Dunbar both know how to kind of push my buttons, I guess. Yeah. I don't know if they know that they know how to push my buttons, but they do.
Yeah.
But there's little things that they say or do that are like, okay, well, I'm going to win this. So I'm very competitive in military and athletics. And so little things like, no, we're not going to give you more leads. Okay, well, I'm going to get my own leads.
Winners find a way to win.
Winners find a way to win.
Well, I'm a winner, so yeah.
There you go. I'm going to find a way to win.
Yeah.
And so when it came to the team, they were like, yeah, no, we'd like for you to build your team, but, You know, I wasn't really getting recognized. Nobody was really saying anything about it, and my team wasn't getting recognized. I was like, well, we're going to be a special team. We're going to go after things a little differently. And so we set our goals different, because it was always, hey, I'm going to be 20% of the 100 million. You know, that's kind of where I put myself at. When I first came back on board and we went to advisory council, we were sitting at the table at advisory council. He's like, we're going for 100 million. I'm like, well, I'll be 20,000 or 20 million of that. You know, so I was like a piece of the pie.
Correct.
But I'd say during Win Week in May, we shifted our focuses on how we're going to do things. We decided we were going to start recruiting and building our team, and we're no longer going to be a piece of the pie. We're going to be the pie. Yeah. And so Delta Elite, my organization, my team, we're going for 100 million ourselves. And if Vini Camp has to have 34 codes a month, well, we're going for 34 codes ourselves. So we're not going to rely on any other team or any other organization or any other person in the organization whatsoever. You know, if they're putting the stipulations or the demands or the pressure on one person, which is Dustin Vini Camp, to have those numbers, well, then why can't I be the one person too? Yeah. You know, and so I'm willing to take the same burden on and focus our team on it. And if he wants us to go for 20 to double-digit referrals, well, how about all of our presentations and referrals? So we're going after our own lead generation sources and going out and doing things in the whole works. He said, hey, let's go ahead and do an hour a week or a day of hiring. So our team's out there an hour every day, out in the malls, getting 3, 4, 5 people a day, you know, just to come in for the team. So, you know, and then we have some things that we're just doing when it comes to the Monday meetings and, you know, for the agency meetings and how we go get them through the pipeline. But our time from hire to code is like 33 days on average, which is like half that of normal. Yeah. You know, so we're trying to expedite that even more. So we're just trying to make sure that, I guess, the people first factor that's on there. We're trying to make sure
out the people first declaration. Well, and so with everything that you got going on, David, talk to us about what you're most excited about moving forward. You've got a lot of things, you know, a lot of blessings. You got a beautiful family, you got a beautiful business. What are you most excited about, you know, moving forward with your business as 2019? We're already halfway done. Right. So what are you focused on this second half of the year, and you know, let everybody know kind of what they can expect from you and what's going on in your business that you're most excited about?
Well, between Lindsay and myself, she's becoming an MGA. Well, she's already gone through MGA school, the whole works, but she's actually taking her contract on August 1st. Okay. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That's very exciting. Yeah.
We've got a pretty good sized team, and so we got some pretty good leaders in place, you know, so like Southern and Ron and Jordan and Angela, we got, you know, Morgan. We've got quite a few people that are, you know, some superstars. Yeah. And so we're really looking forward to having about 5 or 6 people be MGAs by the end of the year. Good. And so I'm looking to get that up and going. We really have a goal set forth that within the next year and a half that we've created 20 millionaires. Okay. So we want to make sure that 20 people on our team are in a position that they're like in the pipeline too, if not already VPs, and they're making $1 million. So that's our ultimate goal that we want to make sure that we're at. And by getting to $100 million, and we want to do that in 5 years, not 10. Yeah. So we're trying to get there in a 5-year period of time. We've got the plan laid out for us. We've got a couple different things that we're going to do when it comes to the MBA program and some of those things. So we're really just moving forward in that direction to have that happen. And so I'm really excited about seeing it play out and coming into that position. Really excited for these guys to go to Seattle for the leadership.
Get to see it
because Lindsay won her category or got second place, so she's got an invitation to go. I was on SWAT, so I'm able to go, but I also won my category for Mayhem, and so I got another spot plus 5 people. And then we got 2 other spots that we could do. Still waiting to see when the SWAT guests come out, because I'm hoping that Southern's on there too. But one way or the other, he's still coming out. For sure. But we're going to still have a pretty good representation. We'll probably have 10 people from Delta Elite at the Seattle conference.
And that's just the beginning.
That's just the beginning.
Right. You know, we've got conference in either December or early next year for ABC to wrap up the year that, you know, to get the recognition that you guys deserve. And so just to wrap it up, you know, I want to touch on a couple of things that really stood out to me, you know, about your story. When you decide to go all the way across the country as a young man and leave home, you know, you mentioned, you know, a little homesick at times, but you stuck it out, right? And you had that perseverance. And I don't know if it was mentorship at that time or pride, ego, whatever it was, like, I'm not going home. You know, you stuck it out and you got the job done. But then when you talk about having integrity, I think this is something that so often when it comes to business and making money, when my job says, well, just so that timeshares, I'm going to give you a lead, just tell them this, and then you're going to make a great living. A lot of people probably would just do what they're told to do, and this is what my employer told me to say, and they would do that, right? And so having integrity in the process is such an important part of it. But to find out you go 0 for 30, you weren't probably arguably the most coachable person at the very beginning,
Yeah.
to then come back only 4 or 5 months later and just say, hey, you know what? Obviously, I'm not doing it the right way, and then to stick to the script, follow the processes, and really accept the mentorship, right? Because we can all have people that want to help us, but if we don't listen,
Yeah.
like you said with your kids, right? The stove's hot. Well, they touch it anyway, right? So for you to really just be able to put the pride aside and just say, hey, you know what? Let me just be coachable to the system. But then also the servant leadership, it's so evident in not only the military career of, doing what you needed to do, but then moving to, being a sergeant and leading, you said about 260 young men, young men, 18, 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
So that I think really prepared you for this season of your life to be able to now lead a team of 20, 30 and upwards of 100 and beyond. But it's going to be a lot better for you and your family this time around, especially when you're leading 260 people. So, David, thank you for your time. Anything else that you want to end with today? Any last leadership message for the newest agent that's just starting their career as an entrepreneur? What would you say to them?
I just want to say that, hey, this is probably the best opportunity that's out there.
Yeah.
I've been around the block a little bit, and I've seen quite a few things. And there's nothing like this. We actually get paid for what we do as long as you have a good work ethic and that you actually put the energy and activity into what you're doing. Yeah, you're going to be in a great position. But again, just what we were talking about there, if you're a new person, you're coming on board, just listen to your mentors. Yeah. What they're telling you for a reason. They're not going to lead you astray. We're not in an industry or a group of people here that are looking out for ourselves. We are servant leaders. We're looking out for everyone that we have on our team and making sure that you guys are successful and that you're going to prosper. And in order for you to prosper and be successful, they're going to give you a list of things to do. And even if it seems uncomfortable, it seems like, well, maybe let me see what happens for me later or whatever. Don't put your thoughts in your mind. Take your thoughts out. Listen to what your mentor has to say. That's good. And just do it. If you if you just do it and you move forward, you're going to reap the rewards. Yeah. You're going to protect families and you're going to take care of your family at the same time. And just that's the biggest thing. Be able to be coachable, follow your mentor's advice, follow the systems and processes, learn your script, double-digit referral presentations, and recruit.
That's a great way to end. So with that, make sure you go follow David and Lindsay on their journey to VP and beyond and creating those 20 millionaires in the next year or two. Follow them on social media. Also, we're heading off into the second production month of the year. I know you guys have big plans going into July and a lot of big things happen in your organization. So let's go out there. Let's attack this week. Let's attack this month. And let's go out there and make this month the best month of your life and go do something big to ultimately change your life. So we'll talk to you soon. We'll see you next week. David, thank you, sir.
Thank you.